with a removable enclosure. He was hoping to possibly get some initial feedback from the board to see if this was something he should even attempt to pursue. I'm going to go to review and at least let me know what you think. Obviously, I understand you can't speak possibly get some feedback. So I don't think there is a CMA application. It's really more of a, let's call it a sketch plan review. You know, he's floating the idea past to see if it's even gonna hold water. And if the commission's like, you know what, we'll never approve this, and it's not gonna bother pursuing it. They say, yeah, I mean, we can go with that, then we'll make the formal application.
You can find it.
All right, well, I guess we should probably call the meeting to order. Mary's not gonna be here. You got 4 out of 5 plus at least one resource officer.
Good. Well, the first item on the business is the selection of a.
Well,
of a
Well, we should do
roll
roll
call
call.
first. Deb, can you please call the roll?
Sure. Mr. Akers,
I'm here.
Mr. Bannon,
Here.
Ms. Hunt,
Here.
Ms. Lowther, Mr. Tamero,
Here.
Mr. Barrett, Mr. Barrett,
Here and a little delayed because I'm on mute.
okay, Mr. Stone, Mr. Stone, Ms. Palmer, Trustee Etu,
Here.
Mr. Grieco,
Here via Zoom.
thank you.
I haven't met Mr. Barrett. Is there, could we learn about our new colleague?
Sure. Tom, you wanna introduce yourself?
Perhaps there was material sent on Mr. Barrett. Is that so?
I'm sorry, what?
I'm asking if information, a bio on Mr. Barrett.
Oh,
was
yeah, I'm
sent
sure
out.
you can offer it. Tom, can you unmute and introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm having a tough time hearing you. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, I haven't, I'm Tony Bannon. I haven't met you.
You can
I'd
use
like
the
to learn
microphone,
about
Tony.
you. Hmm?
Use the microphone.
I beg your pardon. Thank you.
Great. I got Tony and we haven't met, and then I think somebody else started speaking. So you could just repeat the rest of what you said.
Well, thank you. I have not received information about you until Matt sent us information, and I'd love to meet you and learn about you.
Great. I welcome the opportunity. In the meantime, you know, I'm a lifelong resident of Williamsville. Since COVID began, I've been residing down at my cottage in Derby as I take care of my parents who still live in Williamsville, but because of my work, I see a lot of people and figured it'd be better to just get a little bit of an escape. I'm the president of Callbacks Construction. We're a general contractor in Western New York. We build commercial buildings, anything from hospitality, quite a bit of hotels, and a lot of student housing, multifamily housing, retail, and industrial buildings. We've got about 87 full-time employees. We've been in business since 1962. Besides that, I really just work a lot. I've got a live-in girlfriend, my partner, who's been with me for a couple of years. We have a one-eyed adopted cat and an adopted dog, both rescue animals. That's really it. I don't know what else to tell you.
Well, great.
Kind of a boring life. It's just the way I'd want it.
I'm curious about your interest in historic preservation.
So professionally, my background has quite a bit of experience with adaptive reuse and historic preservation. Notable projects here in the area that I participated on and worked with National Park Service, the Department of the Interior, and State Historic Preservation Office would include the Remington Lofts on the Canal, 430 Virginia Street, the Allentown Lofts downtown. most recently, the Parkview Loft Apartments across from Martin Luther King Park, all of which were former industrial or school buildings that developers that I either represented or worked for as a general contractor converted into market rate, affordable housing, and in some instances, components of retail as well. So pretty well versed with the process. Those are probably some projects you might recognize.
Brilliant, thank you.
Welcome to the commission. It's kind of interesting that I have a brother-in-law by the name of Tom Barrett.
Wow, it's great to finally meet you. But yeah, is he a local guy?
Well, he was in Amherst. They moved to the Rochester area.
Oh, very good, very good. Well, it's nice to meet you, and thanks for welcoming me into the board.
Sure.
No, it's the wrong one.
We're working now on Mike.
Shame on me, I came early.
So this mic is fed through to the speaker, right?
There, try it now.
Or
Yeah.
excellent. Hi.
There we go. That'll be a little easier here.
Well, it's appropriate now, having met Mr. Barrett, to choose a new chairperson and
Well,
her.
Tom is a resource officer. He's a non-voting member, like Sue Palmer, and Wes has elected to move to that position. But I would also like to introduce Christine Hunt. I think she should introduce herself as well, just like Tom did.
Absolutely. Can you hear me? Oh, yeah, you can hear me. I am a 25-year village resident and risk control consultant for New York State. I've had several careers through the state, different capacities, and I have an industrial background as well. And I have a deep interest in historical preservation. Many of you on the commission already know I did nominate my home for local landmark, and it was accepted. I appreciate that. So our home at 75 Evans was the first self-nominated local landmark in the village of Williamsville. So I'm really interested in embracing the preservation and historic values of the village. So that's why I'm here.
Christine, this is Chuck Akers speaking. Are you planning on applying for a national registration for your house?
Yes, I'm working with Christiana Liminitarius. I always massacre her last name, sorry. Can never get the Greek names right. With her, we've been conversing and working on how to approach it. We're going to do it ourselves. I'm not going to hire a consultant. So we're going to do it ourselves. She thinks we can accomplish it. And then work with SHPO, and Jennifer as that, run everything through her as we compile it before it goes before.
SHPO is a very good source because you could send a partial report up to them on what you're trying to do and they will comment on it, what needs to be done and what needs to be added to make it a national.
Yes, that's why we're working at that way. Christiana actually suggested that. So that's the way we're going with it.
Good luck.
Thank you. I said it'll be a process. I mean, we're looking at several months of compiling, just getting the wording right. Said it's all in the wording. It's all in the wording. What did you say last night, Matt? It's how you spin it? Oh, how you spin it. So we just want to get the wording correct for the documentation portion so that it's acceptable. So she's helping me in that she's doing a lot of research and looking at other nominations that were already accepted for a similar structure. So we think we can do it. So we're working on it.
Well, this is Tony Bannon. I apologize for not calling for an introduction for you, Christine. But I figured that we all knew you.
I know, it is. It's like I know you guys already.
Right. After the last 6 months,
Yeah.
at least,
Thank you.
I believe you've attended every meeting during
I-
that period.
I have pretty much.
And you'd be, as chair of our esteemed commission, you would be the first person to have seen the process through from beginning to end, I would imagine, on our commission. But you know what's impressed me about you, Christine, and this is the reason why I asked you for a resume some time ago, that I've been impressed with what I think is your leadership ability, the way in which you have moved the process, self-nominated, and then are moving even to higher planes, if one might say that, on the state level, is that not correct, as well as a national level? Well, that's often impressive. And, surely you've learned an awful lot in the process of conducting your nomination through its acceptance. But your skill as a leader is certainly reinforced by your resume, and I must say I was dazzled by it. I don't know that our colleagues have had an opportunity to dig into your accomplishments. Oh, here's Mary. Hello, Mary. I'm just creating a rhapsody for Christine in a backhanded way to nominate her for our chair. So I'll wait till you get assembled before going on. This is your USB drive. For being here, Mary. I'm going to surprise you in a few minutes too. I was just saying that I had asked Christine for a resume, and I was sharing that I had been dazzled by it, and I wanted to make sure that our colleagues knew about it. She's cum laude graduate of Madai, where she studied business administration. All of this leading to propose that she be our chair, primarily because of her leadership ability. And so what did she do after graduation? Well, she became a New York State trooper, a state police trooper. And following on that, a librarian at SUNY at Buffalo. And thereafter, why she obtained a license to be a fork truck operator. So she is qualified in that regard and was a team leader in the UAW 774. So she also has experience not only from Management Confidential, which she did subsequently as payroll supervisor for the Hamburg Central Schools, but she has experience with a leader in the UAW. And now, as she mentioned, she is working for New York State Insurance Fund as a risk control consultant. So I think that we have seen her. We have seen her in the trenches with her application, successful application, and here that giving us an impression of a person who certainly has all the capabilities to lead, but supported by this resume, which is estimable. Now, Mary, I would like to come to you to complete the ticket because everyone knows that over the years of your service in Williamsville, both as mayor and trustee, and not to mention your leadership through decades of in the historical society. Well, I think that you have fashioned a genome that has Williamsville stamped on it, part of your DNA structure, as well as your cultural orientation. So I'd like to propose that you be our associate chair or vice chair. So may I place in nomination then Mary and Christine to lead us for the next year? Or is it 2 years, man? I think.
Christine is chair, and he is vice chair.
Yes.
I believe the chairperson appointment is annually agreed upon by the commission. is it not?
I would have to look it up. I don't know.
What was the question?
The chairperson is, oh, it's elected for a term of 2 years.
Good.
You're right.
How about that? Thank you, Matt. So do I have a second? Do I have a second to the
Second,
nomination? Thank you. Nominated. And seconded. May we have a vote? Or are there any comments to be made? All in favor then?
aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So it's carried. Thank you, Matt.
So just so I understand, because do I understand that Mary Lowther is on the phone?
No, she's
No,
right
I-
here in the.
Oh, okay, because I can't see. I'm sorry. All right. I just wanted to make sure that the minutes were clear as to that we had everybody voted. Okay.
I'm doing that in the office.
Excuse me, so that I understand the motion. The motion is to nominate Ms. Hunt as chair of HPC.
Yeah.
And Mr. Bannon made the resolution and Mr. Akers seconded it.
That's right.
Okay,
Was it Jim? Did you?
I did.
Oh, well, we have multiple seconds then. Mary,
We only need 1 second.
sure.
who seconded it then?
Jim,
I think it was Jim, yes.
Jim? Thank you.
Sure.
Jim, comment? No, okay. Well, Mary, take it over.
Okay, I'd like to defer to Tony for this one since I'm new. No, kidding. Okay, appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. It's quite an honor.
Thank you.
I do appreciate the nomination and the acceptance of it. Now, I am new, so it'll be I have to do some quick studying. And we will move on to the next order of business, which is, there is no certificate of appropriateness for MORPAT. I believe this agenda item is not exactly written correctly. We've been looking, Nick clarified it a little bit. He said it was, what did you say? They sent you an email?
It was an email from, Tim received an email back at the end of September from the owner of Morpat, floating the idea of what you see in those images and asking for feedback from the commission as to whether or not this would be something that you guys would consider. And to the best of my knowledge, that's where it currently lies. I have not seen a certificate of appropriateness come from the building department. So I'm assuming they're still waiting for feedback from the commission. And with everything that happened at reorg right at the same time, I think it remains in that position.
Okay, so then it's just a discussion, correct?
Yes.
Could I just, before you get into any further substantive discussions, I just want to know, Matt, do you know, I mean, I'm quite concerned that this commission is 2 members short. There is a quorum, so you can transact business, and you guys were able to elect a chair and a vice chair. But it's going to be very difficult, potentially very difficult to conduct business going forward with only 5 appointed members to a 7-member commission. And I'm just, Matt, can you fill us all in, I guess, maybe as to what's the plan in terms of trying to fill those spots, if there is one, or?
The plan is to fill those spots, and I'm beating the bushes to try and find suitable candidates to fill those roles. And ideally, I'd like to replace what we've lost. So abruptly and callously, and I'm having trouble with that.
All right, so I just want to make sure that everybody understands, especially those who are new to this process, that for the commission to act just like any other public body in New York, it is a majority of the entire commission. So having 2 vacancies, it doesn't mean it's a majority of 5, it's a majority of 7. So
Or
that's the challenge. That's the challenge. So
for any business to move forward, you need 4 positive votes.
Yes, Matt has done a good job in alerting us also to engage in the search for Williamsville residents. He specified the 7 qualities that would be. It would be
I think your mic's going off.
the lights have gone.
Yeah.
It says low battery.
Oh, there you go. Well, yeah, so what Tony was saying is that, I copied and pasted the 7 qualities that are in the chapter 48 or whatever it is for historic preservation, and I'm soliciting assistance to try and find suitable candidates. We have one individual who had expressed an interest back in June, and that just kind of got lost in the COVID sauce, but she reached back out again. We had asked to see her resume, and I never saw a copy of it. So we've asked for that again. We did just get someone commented on Facebook this morning or on volunteer request or something. So we might have another candidate in the offing, but I haven't spoken to that person yet, and I don't even know if they're a village resident. So we're trying.
Well, I think it's music before.
You should just be able to put it to your mouth. And
Okay, this is Mary. I have 2 friends who might be interested. One used to be on historic preservation, probably 10, 15 years ago, and is a library specialist. And another one who is an attorney, both live in the village. So I will reach out to them and see what I can find.
that'd be great. And if they're interested, have them go onto the village website and fill out the volunteer application. Then we'll get their info.
That's great. And in the process, might we be transparent with one another so that we, once an applicant or once a candidate has expressed interest, might we share it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And we'll look.
Yes,
Yep.
absolutely.
Good.
Yeah. Matt, this is Chuck Akers. I would like to see all of us go out and try to find people within the village, which is going to be hard, but matches up with the types of experience that our code says that we should have on this board.
I agree, Tom.
And I think that should be a major effort for all of us to try to fill those slots in. And if we can't, then we can go back to people like we have done in the past that have not filled one of those slots up. I mean, if we followed the law, I would never be on this board because I don't fit,
Well-
one of the categories. And how many historians do we need on this place? So I'm just commenting,
I'm sorry. Matt, I did see your email message and following up on what Chuck says, ideally, yeah, it would be great to like have village residents that all meet these particular needs, but it may be in the size of the village, you're not going to be able to find, neat nominees that fill each of those things. So if not, I think if people are interested, that's just, that's good.
I agree with you. The irony is that we had someone that filled some of those niches, and the village board outvoted me. So
Okay.
I think we need to try our best to replace what we've lost, not just with warm bodies, but with conscientious experience.
So are we ready to move to the next
Okay.
agenda item?
Yes, which, is it still hearing? The discussion on Warpath. Did everybody have a chance to look at the awning?
Oh, let me see if there's
There's a pack.
there should be like a couple of, I love remembering.
This is Green Island.
Right here, this folder.
While Mary's looking through that, I would like to say that in working with this commission this year for the nomination for our home, I found you all very professional and very knowledgeable. I had no idea what your backgrounds were, but I found that you were very knowledgeable and very passionate about the historic preservation of the village. So I think we have a lot of good people sitting on this board. The 5 people that are here all seem to be very concerned and interested in the mission of HPC and CLG, in general.
I have a question, I guess, for Matt. Wasn't some of this land, village land, has that been sold to Morpad, or what's the status of that?
That's a great question, Jim. Thanks for bringing that up. Yes, it's actually all village land. And just so everyone's aware, basically there's a strip of property along Spring Street, which Cher's patio is on, and everything up to the base of Cher's building, straight down Spring towards the mill, is all actually village right of way. So the patio itself, as well as Morpath's sort of front yard, so to speak, and sidewalk area, is actually all village property. We have an agreement with both Cher and Morpath for the use of that property. So it is our intention to pursue alienation of that property and incorporation of that into Cher and Morpath's property, because I mean, if there's nothing in it that we can use, there's no utilities in it or anything else like that, it allows them permanent installation of things, as part of their property then, and it puts that strip of property, which is prime real estate in the village, back on tax.
Are they paying for the use of it, or it's just an agreement? I see the agreement.
Yeah,
as written.
I don't know the answer. I don't believe they're not like renting.
The license agreement is essentially for a nominal cost for their right to occupy that space.
Are they gonna eventually own it?
Well, so that's.
Well, there have been discussions about whether the village would sell that to them, so we don't have to do this, go through this licensing process. But that sort of stalled at some point pre-COVID, when we were looking for some clarification from the property owner, because the Cher or the Morpath and Cher, that's actually one parcel of property. or it was at the time we licensed it, and as far as I know, it still is. But there was some discussion about they might be subdividing those properties. So if we were gonna do a real estate transaction, we wanted to know whether we were dealing with 2 parcels of property or 1. And I still don't know the answer to that question.
Right, and I think all of that was January, February. And like, it had all come back. That was proposed roof over the patio, sorry, Share was proposing a roof over their patio.
Right.
And they were trying to get that taken care of before the summer. And then all of that work stalled as soon as COVID hit mid-March. So that, everything, that whole discussion of surrounding all of that just hit off. So I don't think they subdivided, but they did have an intention to. I think the thought at the time had been, well, let's do it before they subdivide so that it's easier, because we're just doing 1 parcel instead of 2, and then they can subdivide all they want. But none of that really materialized. The other thing is that talking with Joel, who owns Share, he's a tenant. He doesn't own the property. So, so then we were sort of talking to the wrong people. But in this case, the point is the licensing agreement is applicable to the front of Morpat. It doesn't prohibit them from doing what they're proposing to do from the village's point of view. So, and nothing has changed as far as its status. So it's okay to talk.
This is Chuck Akers here. My initial looking at what Morpat submitted, I'm kind of unfavorable on what they did. My thinking on that is, one, as a historical site, we are to do what we can to preserve the front of the building or that which is in the site of the people from the streetscape. And in Buffalo, when I dealt with the Buffalo Preservation Society, that was a key issue. We had to totally change a design because part of the building that could be seen for 1 month out of the year had to have the original building aspect there as much as possible. If you put that front on there in black, you're literally covering up the front of a historic building, so it cannot be viewed from the streetscape. For that presentation, I'm not in favor of.
I agree. I think it erodes the historic character of that building. And we should not be doing that.
So the only thing I want to say, and I'm not trying to disagree with any of that by any means, or making any suggestion as to what your opinion on that should be. All I want to make is a procedural point, and again, this is mostly for the new folks. If you're not aware that, so specifically here in this, well, the village has adopted design guidelines for that are specifically intended to help guide your deliberations on certificates of appropriateness. Frankly, I don't know, because I haven't looked at them too recently, whether they would provide any guidance on this particular issue. But just as a general matter, I want to make sure and remind the members and highlight to the new members that that really should be our jumping off, or we should always make sure we're at least checking those design standards, design guidelines, which have been incorporated into the new Chapter 47 explicitly, to see whether they provide any meaningful guidance. And they may not in this case, but we always want to make sure we do that.
I did that. Just in discussion with a couple of folks, we kind of talked about this. Those are the pages that we discussed. And the definition of an awning, and the definitions for an awning under those guidelines are that it's open. So that enclosure is not an awning. If they enclose it, it's no longer considered an awning.
Well, an awning typically covers a door or
Or
a
when,
window, right? This takes up
more than a third of the frontage.
oh my God, it's more than half.
Yeah,
I mean,
more than half, almost the whole frontage actually. But it should not take up more than a third of the frontage.
Right,
So-
so as I recall, the historic standards. As I recall, the historic standards ask for a color and material consistency within a historic context. And I don't imagine that black would be one of those historic color choices. Moreover, I don't think the material is like anything we know of a historic awning.
Is the material canvas?
Well, I think they, historic landmarks design standards ask for canvas, as I remember, but it doesn't appear to be canvas.
Yeah, I have no idea what it is.
Yeah, there was no information on the city. I would go on a limb and say they probably were super vinyl. Now, I will say the reason they were floating this was primarily COVID related.
Yes.
So they're trying to create an indoor-outdoor space, pre-season kind of thing. Now, I have not spoken to the applicant. I don't even know their name, but you know, one of the things that you could choose to do would be to put a covenant on it. And maybe this is only a permitted appendage until such time as the pandemic is no longer a thing for them business-wise, and then they have to remove it all. Or, you know, I know, hey, you know, it's an option.
Just me shooting the work.
It's an option, I'm just saying, but I agree with you. I mean, you know, when you look at the design standards, I mean, it verges on, it's so large and fully enclosed, it verges on an addition. Which is, you know, discouraged on the primary facade of the building.
Right. And
Well,
you-
and there's issues of lighting too, because you know it's gonna have to be fully lit. And there's no indication about that, but that's also a direct contrast to our regulations that we have in place.
And the other thing I think of is, I think of the surrounding buildings. And I think of how Howard and Tara Canvas have been so conscientious of what they're doing. And this just doesn't seem to be a very aesthetically conscientious choice or request for this area in general. But I will, Chuck, not Chuck, I'm sorry. Chip. Sorry about that, Chip. I'm looking at the license agreement and it looks like the one I'm looking at has expired. It's for a 1-year term commencing May 1st, 2016. Is it, it's a perpetual or something?
No, it gets removed.
It gets renewed.
I don't have that in front of me. I think it had some automatic renewals built into it. But,
I remember renewing it towards the end of last year, because this came up when Cher was talking about their roof.
Okay, so this just isn't old.
The language remains the same.
Okay.
I have another question about this design, similar to what happened with Creekview. When it was Creekside, and they had a patio. Then they wanted, because of the rain, to put up clear plastic sheets that hung down. And then all of a sudden, those clear plastic sheets turn into windows and a permanent structure. And this is design creep that this thing looks obvious that in 5 years down the pike, they're going to put in a solid wall and all that. It'll be a different board and be lack of memory of what's going on, and we'll approve it. And it was just destroyed the historical context of that building with the mill and the Little Red House behind and that whole historic view that you get from the street.
I agree, Chuck.
yeah, no, that's a definitely a legitimate point, Chuck. I just have a question though, actually, from a historic, was it, because that's a landmark, right? Creekview?
Well,
No,
no,
No, that's never been landmarked? Okay, never mind then. Okay. I thought it was.
I thought it was too.
I thought we just recently did that.
Yes.
I don't think so.
Well, let's look at the list.
Planning board.
Well, so then I guess since this isn't an actual application and they're looking for some feedback, so that Tim has some direction as to what to give back to the owner, do you have any specific suggestions or simply no, or you'd entertain this but not that, or
I have one potential suggestion, and that is to put his patio, which he has at the side of the building, in front of it, put some tables out there, and then take and put an enclosure on the side of his building for added seating. So it does not destroy the front view of the building.
So you're talking about the deck
The deck, yeah.
versus the front.
Use the deck, Chuck, is that what you're saying?
Use the deck to the right of Morpat, where
Yeah.
he put up, an illegal structure because he mounted it to the building without our permission. He closed that in with whatever he wants to do to have protected eating space, and then to have open space in front on what is to be his property.
On a temporary basis.
Yes.
Christine, what were you saying earlier, that's what he's already done?
Oh, no, I, have you driven by there lately? They just put up some plastic. They just covered it with plastic, rudimentary, kind of just a plastic and 2x4s. Nothing formal, but it tells me that he may be willing to use it that way, and maybe he'll take that suggestion and use it. But right now it just has plastic on it.
I think Chuck makes some good points. I guess if they were looking for suggestions, I mean, just off the top of my head, I was thinking redesigning this thing so it replicates more of a 19th century look. So the windows are 6/6 panes, that the door is more like a 19th century door. I mean, trying to extend the look out further of similar to the original building.
I have a sneaking suspicion that that's probably beyond their scope at this point, because they're just trying to create COVID-friendly square footage.
Yeah, well, if they ask for input, there's my input.
Thank you. They're looking for COVID-friendly square footage on a temporary basis. They do have that. I don't see why they need this.
I think the advice is to read the design standards and create a proposal that's consistent not only with the standard as such, but with the sections on recommendations. Read it, and understand it, and act in concert with it, period.
That's a good
It's a
response.
good recommendation.
Right, because it's not our job to do.
Mhm. That's right. We don't design a form. Would you like to say that in the speaker?
Yeah. Deb, did you get that?
Did you get that from,
No,
Tony?
can you repeat that? Can you repeat that, please?
I'm not,
You were so eloquent.
Sure. well, you see, I have to get as patient, then I become eloquent. I think if we were to ask the applicant to read the design standards and act accordingly, there are standards which should be adhered to, and there are recommendations. And as we develop a look and appreciation for Main Street, we need to maintain the standards and the recommendations both. I think the business about a black overhang is a recommendation in which it's stated, as I recall, to be consistent with this historic palette and to work in terms of context, which I think would even question something on the side of the building. At any rate, read the standards and act accordingly, I think would be my advice.
Okay.
Thank you, Tony. Anything else? Anybody else? Open for discussion? Any other suggestions? Okay. I'd like to close the matter for discussion. We can get back to the applicant with that information. We'll contact them.
Tim,
Tim will.
yep,
That'll be Tim Masters who will be connecting with the applicant.
Okay. Well, there is no application yet, so it's not really. They are potential applicants. There's no application yet. Okay. Shall we move on to, actually, number 3 on the under new business is a duplication. It was from last month. It was already approved. The application for certificate of appropriateness was already approved at the September 22nd meeting. And we were provided with, that was what Tim Masters sent. He sent the plans over just to review. And I wasn't here for that, so I'm gonna let the rest of the commission discuss that, but I believe it is and it should not be on the agenda for tonight. It was already approved. And that was just a duplicate.
yeah, it was a
Submission.
passing, it was a passing ship. Tim misinterpreted, the applicant delivered the paper drawings after the last meeting. He interpreted that as a second submission, but it's in fact just a copy.
So there's no action on this that we should take.
Oh, correct. No action. It shouldn't even be on, it should not be on the agenda.
I've been on the agenda.
Moving on.
Move along to old. The photo project, Mr. Akers. Did you?
Yes.
Prototype for us of the photo.
A lot, not much, but a lot has gone on. I talked with some of the homeowners, the business association, and they are running into, because of COVID, some financial difficulties. And there was issues of they may not have the membership for next year, or they're not sure if they could help pay for, some of the cost of this. And that, so it's kind of hung up in the air from the association's viewpoint, which is fine. I could understand that. And we don't need to have an answer, until March. But it would help, I think, to between now and then, can't get our ducks in a row. What I mean by that is, one, we're not going to have a picture up in every building on Main Street. Some of them probably look the same as they did in 1955, but there are major differences, like the new brewery on Main Street used to be a Forge, and the Irishman used to be a gas station. And I can't remember, since I wasn't in New York State in 1955, on what was on the corner of Main and Union Road there, which is now the Walgreens. It was a Tops Market, but what was it before that? What I'd like to see, and as Jim, you asked for a couple sessions ago about forming a committee to help look at this, and that is to go through the photographs and pick out those that would make the biggest imprint to a person walking by and seeing it. And then go to those business people to see if they would like to do this, and to have an example of what a framed, mounted or unmounted photograph with a label on it should be. I did go to the town clerk's office and ask them about, is there a necessity to put their name on it because it came in their files? And legally, no. That's public information and they don't have to be acknowledged. However, I agree with Jim that we should say where the source of the photographs came from. And so that needs to be put on the label in a corner. We have Williamsville Historical Preservation Commission, the source being the Amherst Town Clerk's Office. And then I was thinking about adding a little bit of more interest that would take some research to be done, and that is what was in that building in 1955. If you look at the building that is the liquor store here in the village, that used to be a restaurant. And it shows the marquee out front, the lighted sign of what that was. It would be nice to say the name in 1955, this was the business that was here and what it looked like, with the additional label of adding, acknowledging the town and the Historical Preservation Commission. But that takes more than, I think, just one person to come up with some thoughts in that. So it would be nice to get 2 or 3 people that would like to work on this, and we can put our thoughts together and kick this around before we bring it back to the full committee.
Chuck, did you ever get a cost on what the framed picture would be? What's the cost?
I did get a cost that had a couple options from a place that went out of business the week after I talked to him.
All right,
There
well,
are
we gotta-
some, there are some plastic frames that are $1 a piece for an 8x10 photograph that come from General Dollar Store. It shows up on their website and that. Generally, the frames for an 8x10, you're looking at $8 to $25 on that. It's $5 for the printing of the photograph. And so this could, easily go up to $30, $40 a picture.
All right, so $30 to $40, and you say these businesses right now can't afford $30 or $40, huh?
Well, there's some that can't even afford to stay in business, Jim.
Yeah, I
It's
know.
been that hard on them.
Yeah,
And, us retirees don't have to worry about where our paycheck is coming from.
okay.
And that, at least mine's coming from Uncle Sam. We need to work with them, and let's pick a number, $40 a piece to shoot for, and if we get them to pay 10 or 15, that helps out. But we don't have an unlimited budget to produce 40 of these photographs for Main Street.
All right.
Why don't we do, just a suggestion, because I'm, thinking, 55, 25. Why don't we do like a 5-year plan? We want to have it all in place for the 70th anniversary to celebrate 1955 kind of thing. And then, and kind of pitch it so that there would we could drum up some interest. Have everything in place by 2025, hopefully sooner. And just do a 70th anniversary of Main Street, 1955 to 2025.
Yeah, Christine, what we were planning on doing this in May, because May is National Preservation Month.
Okay,
And so we were planning, putting this up in May so we could get involved with the publicity of preservation, both here and in Buffalo and in the nation.
okay, very good.
I think the 1955.
Just a point of, yeah, it just sounds like something I wasn't sure if it was something that we were pushing to do sooner rather than later.
Well, so now Chuck, on Amazon, however you feel about Jeff Bezos, you can get 10 8x10 black frames with a mat for $33.
Okay, what's that under in Amazon?
I just did a search for 8x10 frame. But I can text it to you.
Yes, please do.
You gotta love Amazon.
You do? Who's got Amazon? You got Amazon Prime stuff? I'll get free shipping for you.
No, but I have 2 dogs in town that do.
I would argue that the
So far, I've gotten them to pay for, do the shipping order, and they end up paying for the object too.
how many images do you need? 40? How many frames do you need?
Well, we don't know.
We
I mean,
don't
I
know
think we
that.
need
There's-
to do a look.
Go ahead, Chuck.
We need to look through the pictures to say what is appropriate to put up there to show that, hey, the village has grown. To put a building up, a picture of what it looked like in 55, so it looks like it did today, that really doesn't, I think, support our cause. But
Okay.
this, I would be happy to get, look at 1 or 2 other people who work with me on the thinking of that, because my thinking could be wrong.
Look, I'll be glad to work with Chuck on it. Maybe we should have one more person. And I think for starters, I think we should try to identify maybe 10 photographs that meet kind of the criteria this subcommittee is going to come up with for targeting. And also, I would like to invite somebody from the Williamsville Business Association to be on this subcommittee.
That's a good idea, Jim. That's a good idea. And,
Well, I've been working with Meeser at the Amherst Bee.
Okay, we'll work with Trey.
I'd be happy to
And
join.
Trey is all excited about this.
He's a photographer. I will say, before you go order anything, I'm sure the village could acquire this stuff tax-free. So,
And we're not going to order anything right now. I think the first thing is to lay out a plan and then bring that plan back to this commission.
Sure.
At least that's my vision of it.
You want to be?
Yeah, I would like to help if you, my museum experience, so if that's desirable, I'd be happy to put it in the pot.
Sounds good. There's our committee, if that's okay.
Get a motion for it. Can we just throw them together?
Okay,
Do it on the record, why don't you?
yeah.
do it on the record. On the record, we're going to form a committee for the 1955 Main Street photo project of Mr. Chuck Akers and Jim Tamaro and Tony Bennett with Trey Meeser. Do you think Trey Meeser would be interested? We'll approach.
I think we need to get our act together and then present it to Trey.
I'll second the motion. Yes, ma'am.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I would say within the next couple of weeks, maybe Tony and Chuck and I will somehow try to have a meeting, whether it's by Zoom or whatever. And we'll try to set an agenda for how we're going to proceed.
I agree.
That sound good?
Timeline. I think a timeline would be helpful. Something, we'll have this by January, we'll have this by February, if you want it in place for May.
Well, that's one thing. I mean, Chuck can do it. Tony can do it. But we could set together a little agenda for this committee meeting. And one of the items on that agenda should be a proposed timeline that we'll bring back to the commission.
Sounds good.
Sound good? So, I mean, Tony and Chuck, I'll try to reach out to you guys, kind of set up a date as to when we can connect by Zoom, maybe.
Thanks, Jim.
Sounds good.
Matt, if we want to do this, can we go through the village and they use the Zoom connection the village has or something?
Yeah, I would just reach out to Keaton and have him set something up for you.
Okay. I'll put together I'll reach out to you guys, two guys on dates, and I'll put together a proposed agenda, see, and you can add to it or subtract to it.
Oh, yes, just email me the time and date and I can set it up. So Keith.
Okay, thanks.
It's in the chat. You want to go to
It's
chat?
your turn, Mary.
Okay. Next.
All right, historic plaque. Choosing the next 5 properties.
Okay, so just to bring everyone up to speed, so months ago now, this commission chose 5 properties to order the top plaques for. And with COVID, that got lost. That money did not get lost. But now we're into our next fiscal year, which started in July. So officially, you have another pot of money for another 5 plaques. And since they are cheaper by the dozen, we figured, let's order 10 now. And then that can also be part of your May historic preservation month thing, because it'll be outside, and you can present, you can do big ribbon cutting or presentation or whatever you want to do. So I grabbed this.
Matt, were you going to reach out to the businesses? Was somebody going to reach out to the businesses to make sure they would display these plaques?
Yeah, and we did. We sent the 5 recipients notification letter, and we got 0 response one way or the other.
No commitment.
No commitment either way, but no objection either. But again, it was also in May, and I think
Right.
people were generally preoccupied.
And it was several restaurants, 4 of them.
Yes.
So we haven't formally presented these plaques to them, right?
You have been made yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna come here and get a better price.
Okay, so we haven't even had a made yet. Okay.
So we had 6, correct? There were 6 chosen.
There were 5. I think.
The final
Oh, no, it was
6
6,
landmarks
right, it was like-
chosen to get 6 plaques were Morpat, Eagle House, DeCamillo, Bank of America, Herrings, and Excuria. Correct?
Aaron, Syria,
Sounds familiar.
And it's somewhere in the mid of October.
Yep, that's what I was making sure that the X's were indicative of that. I couldn't remember what the dots next, but the X's were the ones chosen. So the dots indicated ones I think that have already received plaques, like Academy and Castle, Schoolhouse, things like that.
Right, okay.
And the
So-
black dots are opportunities.
Okay,
Do you think we could have a list at our next meeting? And we could choose from that?
Sure.
That might help us nail it down.
I know, I was looking online because I saw this on the agenda and I was looking for a comprehensive list, but all I see is the pictures of historic sites, which
It
needs to
lists-
be updated.
Yeah.
Mary, I missed that. What, do you want a list? Is that what you're saying?
Of the ones that we've already.
I mean,
for
Okay.
the next 5 off of that.
The list was in there was a list.
Yeah, but
In the design standards, that's where it was, but it's not comprehensive because it's only current to the date that
Right,
was
of that.
adopted.
Okay.
But, I mean, that list is still reasonable.
Right,
Just
because of the buildings I looked at, I was thinking Tessari and Vocal, those buildings, maybe get in that section of Main Street. Or make it coincide with the liquor store and the things that are, places that we're gonna do pictures. Kind of coordinate that,
could be.
so if possible.
My quick recollection is that I think there's photographs of all those places that we've already selected for plaques. If I remember correctly.
Yeah, I went through that list. And then
This is the last item, Matt, just
Yep.
about finished. I don't think we need to trouble about this.
Okay. You don't want me to? That's fine.
No, I don't, it's not that I don't want to.
Well, if we're not, we're just gonna wait for a list. and
Sure.
not
Yeah, I think
Okay.
we're done.
Choose them.
All right. Well, I'll
Um,
save myself the effort.
Yeah.
Okay.
Matt,
Yeah,
I understand that the village did send a letter out to the people requesting that would they mind getting a, a plaque.
that is correct.
Was it in there that they would, with the understanding they would put the plaque on their building?
Yes,
And we got no replies back?
correct.
Then do we, the village, put those plaques on their building?
We can. I think that can be dealt with the day that they're, that we're handing to them. I mean, if they would prefer that DPW install them, DPW can install them.
Because if they're given to them and not installed, it's useless to give it to them.
Agreed.
I.e. Marty's, who has it and it's sitting getting dust in his back room.
Right.
well, I think if we gave them the option, the DPW could mount it, could form it.
Yeah, it was in the letter.
It
that-
would be.
Yeah. And
Desirable.
right, and I'm pretty sure the way I phrased the letter, been months now, but it was kind of like, if you have a problem with this, let us know. And so by not responding, they've accepted.
Technically, legally, do we have to get permission from them because
Yeah,
it's private property?
it's an interesting question that frankly I have not looked at. I do think there would be a problem
Yeah, I wonder.
potentially with, if somebody refuses, I don't know that we actually have the authority to go in and attach something to their building. The Supreme Court many years ago drew a distinction between regulatory activities that were not takings and physical, in that case involved putting cable, like cable television things on somebody's buildings, obviously had an extremely minor impact on the building. And that was determined to be a unconstitutional taking, wasn't worth much, but so that's an old
Chip,
case.
with the new court, maybe they'll be overturning it.
No, this new court, believe me, is gonna, if anything, will expand private property rights at the expense of public regulation. But so anyway, that's an interesting question, actually.
Yeah, I wonder.
And I can't believe we're the first people who would confront that, so I can poke around a little bit on that. But my initial reaction to that is if somebody says, you're not coming onto my property and putting something on my building, I'm not sure that we'd be able to do much about.
Yeah, I mean,
Even if they said, okay, wouldn't you need like a written agreement that they've agreed to that?
Well, yeah, I mean, likely, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, if for somebody who wants it, I mean, hopefully, it's difficult to understand why somebody would object to it.
Yeah.
Unless
It just seems like it
the
needs
building was
something in writing.
nominated over their objection, kicking and screaming, then it just might become a spiteful issue.
Yeah,
But I don't frankly think there's that many examples of that in the village. But at any rate, it's something, hopefully it won't come to that, but meanwhile, let me take a look at that issue before we say, we're gonna send DPW over there and affix something to your wall.
I'm fairly confident that our DPW crew chief is not a big fan of guerrilla tactics.
It's just a nice, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think we're gonna get a lot of pushback from these folks.
No,
It's just a nice option. If they don't have somebody on staff that maintenance is gonna be able to
Right.
do it, then we can offer the service.
Right, yeah, and you can see Keaton had pulled this letter up. This is what I sent them. You may install it yourself or have the DPW install it for you, but we request that you at least respond to Village Hall by June 15th to confirm that you will accept this honor before we order the plaques.
Good letter, but
Yeah, do we have a copy of that? Can we have a copy of it?
Sure.
Is it on the website or is it
No, it's just,
personal? Can I just have a copy just to see? Because I'd like to be able to formulate some sort of plan at follow-up with you if we want to follow up as we get closer to May. So we can have things in place and now know what we've already offered.
an object of study. Very interesting.
is there a date on that?
Hold on one second. May 14th, you sent it to me as a draft. So,
Well, this thing says June 15th to confirm that you will accept this honor.
correct. Yeah, we sent it out in advance and then wanted a reply a few weeks later.
The draft of May 15th of the-
I'll look for it.
Thank you. Okay. Any other business? Or any other suggestions or questions on the plaques or
Motion to
any other
adjourn.
business?
Next meeting is gonna be 11/24.
What's the date of the next meeting?
11/24 for the next meeting, 2 days before Thanksgiving, were we okay with that?
11/24? Okay.
Is everybody capable of Zoom? I know I'm getting to the point where I may not be going out much in next couple months. It depends on what, but we're not doing too bad right now with COVID, but depends on if things turn. So I may be a Zoom candidate.
Zoom is fine for me. I don't have any, I don't mind meeting in person, but if everybody wants to do Zoom, that's fine.
I would prefer to use Zoom. My daughter shattered her ankle quite badly and has a couple pieces of metal in her ankle that are about 8 inches long. And she's staying with us and cannot put any weight on her ankle for 3 months and has to go through physical therapy for another 6 months after that before she can be released to go back to work. So she's taking a lot of my time.
Sounds like it. I hope a speedy recovery to her.
The use of Zoom is only dependent on Governor Cuomo, again, extending the measure for remote meetings
Oh, that's a good point.
by the end of next week. However, I doubt he will extend it. But
Yeah,
as Chip
I
and I
would
have
be,
always discussed,
yeah,
um,
I would be shocked at this point, given what's
Right.
going on.
Well, but at some point, if he doesn't continue to extend that, then you won't be able to do by Zoom, right?
Correct.
You'll have to.
Correct.
correct.
Okay.
Just to be clear, what would happen if if he stops extending that executive order? Just the regular open meetings law as drafted would kick back in, which means meetings could continue to be, broadcast via Zoom or some, we could allow people, the general public, and even applicants to participate by Zoom, but the board would have to meet in person. And the board could not exclude the public if members of the public wanted to attend in person. We may be able to regulate how many people, but at any rate, I think this is an academic question. I can't imagine, given what's going on with the clusters in New York State and stuff, that he's not going to extend. I'm just hopeful he just extends it like 3 months instead of this 30 days at a time nonsense.
Good
That
night.
would be helpful.
Okay, next meeting then, 11/24/27 PM. Motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Unanimous second?
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
All set. Thanks.
All right, thank you, everybody. I'm going to sign off now.
Good
Thank
night,
you.
everyone.
Good night.
Okay.
All of it, but-
Thank you, Mary.